What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. And yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all fantastically, spewingly well. Here's what we learned from Amorim's 6-minute training session. We are going to look at it with a microscope and go in detail in terms of what he was asking for. Can we see little bits of style from this training session? Because I know it's only a 6-minute video, but you still can take quite a few bits from there. There's a new look. It looks like a new kind of, obviously a new shape, which we was all expecting. New players, are they going to be in that system, or are they just in there because other players aren't available at the minute because they're either training or doing whatever it is? That's what we're going to talk about. We are going to discuss that. We're also going to discuss Kobbie Mainoo being fast-tracked. They're the reports coming out from the academy. A lot of people very, very excited about Kobbie Mainoo. So I'm going to talk about him. I'm going to talk about Andre Onana because I don't feel like he's getting enough credit this season. It's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. And the fact that there are no more international breaks until March. Praise the Lord. Thank God. It's so boring. Proper football should be back. And that's how it should be. So yeah, very exciting. Got a really good news show ahead of us today. So make sure you get involved in the comment section. Smash that like button if you can and subscribe to the channel. We are getting very, very close to 10k. We're pushing 7958 we're currently on at the moment. So yeah, I'm getting excited, man. We're almost there. We're going to do maybe some form of a giveaway or something when we get there, like I don't know, like a retro kit or something, I suppose. But yeah, we've still got another 2,000 to go until we get there, but we're getting closer and closer. So big up everyone who's been a part of this community for a long time. Big up everyone on the other socials in terms of TikTok and Instagram and all that fantastic stuff. So, yeah, right. Current players available due to injury or due to international duty. So some of these roles might change when your Rasmus Højlunds come back, or when Ugarte comes back into the midfield, or when Bruno Fernandes comes back in, or when João. And let's be honest, I think he probably will, but it's not a guarantee that Ugarte is going to start. You know, he might start with Kobbie and Casemiro. This is the unknown that we're all thinking about. In terms of the actual training session itself, you could see and you could hear the manager. There was a lot of focus on central play. During, I think he was doing like an 11v11. There was a team with Bibbs that was more of the kind of academy players, the younger lads, who were more on the defensive drills, and the other one was on the offensive. But compact. And it focused on aspects with Kobbie Mainoo, Mason Mount, Amad Diallo particularly, getting a lot of the vocals from the coach, which you could hear. From the start, very clear, Amorim wanted to emphasise keeping the ball in central areas. Whereas I felt like it was a noticeable kind of shift from what Erik Ten Hag typically did, because a lot of the emphasis was heavily relied on the wingers and how wide and high up they was. This is like the opposite approach, which is nice. Obviously, players like Antony and Malacia under Ten Hag had much different roles. Playing as wing backs is different. I don't know if Malacia's ever done it before at PSV. I don't think Antony's ever done it before. I know we threw him on as a left back and he weren't too happy, was he, when we did it for one of the games. But I don't know. It is a theory that's going amongst fans at the minute. Some people can see it. Some people would go with it. Obviously, naturally, you think he works back. He tracks back really hard. He's aggressive, and he'll run for you all day. So if Amorim wants that as your right wing back, and also he has inverted wing backs, which is always weird, isn't it? But again, it goes back to that central play. Everything's going directed towards the middle, and then you go through the middle. So yeah, we're starting to pick up on little tiny details here with the coach. I just thought it was nice watching it. It's something different. If you compare the footage, and again, people might read into this too much. If you compare the footage to when it was under Ten Hag was it just felt like he was shouting at him on the pitch. It didn't feel like he was ever listening. It was just like, whereas Amorim has that like personal connection. And I'm seeing a lot of people talking about Amorim. I'm not going to say this because I don't want to be that guy who's like, you know, who gets clipped up or whatever. But he does have that kind of modern Mourinho about him in terms of like character. I'm not saying what he's won, because Mourinho obviously before he came to United had won everything, basically. A treble with Inter Milan, a Champions League with Porto, you know, back-to-back titles with Chelsea. You know, super successful coach. I'm not comparing him in terms of that aspect, but I'm talking about character and communication and getting that kind of familiarization with the players. You can already see, and he's on the pitch, right in the center of it, talking the players through it, almost doing the drills with him, I would say. So it's refreshing to have that. Obviously, every coach is different. Every coach has different styles, methods, the way they communicate. That's just what makes a coach, right? But I think you can see that with Amorim. He has that character and he has that personality, which is nice. Another element of the training session that I saw, tracking back as a team collectively, after losing possession every single time, which you should do anyway. It's not like, oh, that's a revelation. Obviously, you should do that. But what I'm saying is, every time they lost it, demanded straight back to the starting positions, restarting play with a new ball, go, 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 intensity, get into that thought pattern of where you go in, you're moving quickly and you're operating quickly. A lot of players overloading the attacking third, adapting to Amorim's system, obviously requires tracking back effectively during counter-attacks because you can get caught. And we've seen little bits of that at Sporting Lisbon before as well, or Sporting CP, sorry. So, yeah. And there are those guys who did do it efficiently and did do it effectively and got back into position. I think he had a timer in his hand. Praised. People like Malacia and Amad were good in those drills. So, yeah, you've seen little patterns here. You're going through the kind of defence, the build-up, the intensity when you lose it. I think that's something United have struggled with. United, on counters, on transitions, probably you would say one of the worst teams in the Premier League, right? One of the worst teams defending them. And typically under Erik ten Hag, it would be because the wingers were so high and wide and pushed up. Then you would have, I don't know, say Bruno Fernandes as like a second striker. So you'd have 4 players basically that were like near the 18-yard box. You'd have 2 that were central. And you'd have the wing backs would push on as well. So you'd almost have just 3 players and then a lot of gaps around him. And 9 times out of 10, it'd be Casemiro trying to fucking chase after someone. I think the prime example of that was like the Liverpool game, where there's just areas like Liverpool purposely with Arne Slot, they pounced on players who'd have 1v1 situations because they knew the wing backs were so high. So there's a difference in that. There's a difference in how there needs to be a difference in terms of how we defend collectively as a team as well. Another noticeable thing that I saw, and I'm going to get into your comments in a moment and see what you guys think if we can kind of bounce ideas off each other. Mason Mount obviously returned from injury and has been working on his fitness during the international break. In these drills, seemed fit, ready, raring to go, but we have seen that before, and you give him a couple of games and then he's out injured again, and then we're talking about, if he can stay fit and going through all that nonsense again. But in the footage, you can see he was assigned a very specific role. The left-sided number 10, linking up with Tyrone Malacia, I thought looked really, really good. And he was just in behind Marcus Rashford. There was a couple of shots of him, some good technique, good finishing. But again, you can't really take too much from training, can you? Because I'm sure these coaches, they look fantastic in training, a lot of the players. And when it comes to a match day, they shit the kecks. They shit the bed, don't they? So it's translating that from the training pitch onto the thing, because I think that was something that ten Hag always said. He said, you want to see him in training, and the coaches, they look unbelievable, and something's being lost in translation. So if you can get that out of him, that's what a coach is paid for. Then hopefully we'll see us start building up. But yeah, Mount, obviously, very key player. Once the ball was played on that side in terms of intensity, what he wants from a player, that's why I said don't write Mason Mount off yet, because Mount has all the accolades, not accolades, but all the ability to really fit into Amorim's system. And if you look at where he played his best football under Thomas Tuchel, in those attacking areas, in like an attacking midfielders in a 3, you can have rotation there. You can offer a lot. You can drop in when you need him to. I'm not sure that's how Amorim's thing really works. I think the attacking ones are more, they stay right up the pitch. You saw it. The best example would be maybe the Man City game where you had Trincao and Goncalves very close to Gyökeres, weren't there? The rest of the guys were like a unit kind of defending, but those 3 they could kind of explore different channels and stuff. So yeah, I think Mason Mount's going to be a key player in this team, and something you need to monitor over the next couple of weeks, especially when the players return from injury. Bruno Fernandes more likely going to be in there, you would probably suggest, but it's not a given. It's not a given. It's kind of a fresh, clean slate, and you've got to earn your role. So yeah, let's see who features in where. I think it's exciting, isn't it, having a new coach with fresh ideas, man. Exan Cafino says hi. We've got Steph saying big up Nick. Team ethic over moments incoming. Ricardo Diaz Sporting here. Cheers. Big up to the Sporting fan. Early likes, 41 subscribers away from 8K. That's from Steph. McMillan saying Erik ten Hag, the player injury is gone. Amorim and his team going to look after the players better. Mount will be a massive under Amorim. I think you make a great point there, McMillan, because there was a lot of question marks, wasn't there, in terms of how many injuries we were picking up, right? So how many muscle injuries United would get on a frequent basis. And a lot of people was putting it down to a couple of things. So the reports coming out from Carrington with Ten Hag when he was there was that sometimes when he was training players or when they had a bad result, he would overtrain them. So he would do like double training things where he was absolutely knackered. He had a tough season. He played 60, 70 games, right? So people were concerned with that. He was also concerned with the playing style. So Ten Hag in his third season came in and he said, I want to be the best transitional team in the world. Brought in Mason Mount, tried going in midfield of Casemiro, Mount and Bruno Fernandes. Didn't work. We kept getting cut open. But he stuck with those principles. He went with it. And you could see, I think every game almost, I can reference probably 5 off the top of my head. Luton was end-to-end. They had about 20-odd shots. Brentford game, they had a load of shots. Crystal Palace, where they beat us 4-0. Like, there was loads of games where it's just, like, proper stretched. And you've got to think the amount of running these midfielders were doing from one box to the other. I mean, that's why Casemiro looked like he just wanted to just sleep in an ice bath or something. The intensity and the energy that he was. So that's the question. Is that what was killing the players so much? Is that why we picked up so many injuries? You know, because if you start to see Mount, Shaw, all these guys start staying fit now, you have to say it's that, innit? You have to be like, well, it's, you know. And there was reports back in March, I think, because I remember doing a show about it with Luke Shaw, where he was like, well, I kind of got rushed back. It was kind of my fault, but then it was the coach's fault. And then it was the other lads, like, it was a shared blame, he said, basically. So he was pushing him back too quick. Now we've seen he's been out for an extensive period of time. So has Lenny Yoro. Kobbie Mainoo's been out for about 3 or 4 weeks. So you've got a lot of players coming back. So it's important, I think, especially with this period coming up now, because there are no international breaks left. None. So we've got consistent games, FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League, Europa League for us. Consistently week in, week out. Almost a game, 2 or 3 games every week now until March. So happy days. So fixtures coming up, you're going to need as many players as possible. I think that's one thing you've learned as a United fan, as many at your disposal. And I think you look at the centre-backs in terms of the depth that we've got. Evans, Maguire, Lindelof, like your tertiary ones, right? I think. Your main ones, potentially, Shaw, Yoro, Lissandro, De Ligt, I would say. And you've even got Diallo and Majari, potentially, you could do that kind of right centre-back role or left centre-back role, whatever you want to call it, I feel. Midfield options, Ugarte, Kobbie, Casemiro, Collier is like the youth option. You've got Bruno or Mount, who could probably do a job in one of those roles. And then wing-backs, I'm not entirely sure. Diallo, Majari, Malacia, Antony, Garnacho, potentially. I've heard people discuss Amad in that role, and I'm not really sold on it, to be completely honest with you. Doesn't really grab me by the horns, that. So the options there, and then in terms of your attacking areas, I mean, there's loads of options you could go with. Loads. So we've actually got a deep squad if everyone stays fit. We've always had a big number, but there's been so many that have been out for so long. People almost forget, don't they, that we've got quite a bit of depth. So I think this system, actually, and I'm sure it's something they would have discussed, Amorim and Wilcox and Ashworth, about, you know, when you come in, I want to play this style. Do we have the players capable of it? Absolutely. Do we have the depth? Absolutely. What can I do in the market? You know, can I go and get specific players? And you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money. Who could I promote from the academy? That's another one. And speaking of the academy, we had some breaking news this morning. So Ruben Amorim's expected to fast-track the development of Chido Obi Martin after being given rave reviews of the striker by Manchester United youth coaches. Jason Wilcox, Nick Cox and Darren Fletcher are all believed to have spoken with Amorim about Obi Martin. They plan to integrate the teenager into some of the under-21 games, as well as some first-team training sessions to prepare him for the senior team. Now, this is a kid who is just bagging goals after goals, after proper exciting talent. If I was to compare him stylistically to anyone, maybe a Victor Osimhen, quite a big lad, got a lethal finish, honestly. And I know it's weird because in the younger football, under 21s, under 18s, the translation from that to Premier League football is a giant gap. So people almost put expectations on young players and they're like, just throw him in. What can you do any worse? Just chuck him in. It don't work like that. You've got to build them up and very methodical with these kind of players. Sometimes you have the odd star who comes in, Kobbie Mainoo, Garnacho, like a duck to water. But the rarity in terms of how often that happens, it's not really a thing, is it? So these players need to be dripped into the team. And if we've learned, again, anything from Ruben Amorim, he is someone who likes to put a lot of trust and a lot of faith into young players. So, yeah, I'd expect players like Chido Obi Martin, Harry Amas, potentially. I'm trying to think of any others. Maybe a Shea Lacey in those attacking areas. Those kind of players see a bit more of, I think. And it's like he says as well, you know, if they're at United for a reason, I know they might be young, but they're there for a reason, so you need to show up. Forget about, the future and wait. These guys can get minutes now. And I think Chido, from everything I've seen, there is a lot of excitement around Carrington and United, and just a fan base in general about him. You know, getting him over from Arsenal, a lot of people were laughing about that because we've kind of taken a striker off them who they really wanted to keep. Ended up in like a legal dispute and everything. So I imagine in negotiations with Chido, because he was in talks with multiple clubs, they were going through it and it was like, look, this is the plan that we've got laid out for you. Okay, we're going to bring you in. You're going to play with the under-18s for a bit. You're then going to go straight to the under-21s, and you're even going to train with the first team. If you perform to the level that you think you're capable of, and we think you're capable of, you'll be in the first team within a year, at least as a substitution, or 2 years potentially. Because I referenced 2 players. You've got 2 prime examples in your team right there who are doing it. Kobbie Mainoo, Alejandro Garnacho. Look at them. They're regulars now. They're arguably our most important players, or 2 of them. Mainoo, when he's on form. Garnacho's our top goal scorer. Got the most goal involvements this season. So, it was Alan Hansen. Who was it who said you'll never win anything with kids? Well, he was wrong, wasn't he? What I liked is if the attacking players took too long, the team got punished and had to do a run, proper coaching. Charlie Malman, Norway won their group and Norway are in the playoff for the World Cup. Norway scored 9 goals in 2 games. Noosa is a must player to get. I'll keep an eye out for that name. Never heard of him before. People were laughing about Antony as a wing back. Yeah, Antony was at right wing back. I know. I could see it. When we had James on from Muppeteers, he was like, I don't see it. I don't think it. I was like, well, I can have a debate about this and go back and forth. But due to time, I didn't push it too much. But I think he has qualities that can fit into that role. Whether he'll be a starter there, I don't think so. I think when Diallo comes back and a few other players come back, I think they might end up going in there. But it's certainly an option to do, isn't it? And it's not a wing-back role is very different to a traditional back 4. So it's not as if you're just defending. The wing-back's a lot of emphasis on bombing forward, linking up with players. One thing you might not be able to do as much as cutting and shoot. He might have to be a bit more less greedy and pass it, but that's not a bad thing. Breaking news, Antony's really right-footed. McMillan like Quenda in Sporting. Quenda's someone else we've been linked with. Sorry, Ricardo, I know you're a Sporting fan, but we've been linked with him again, Quenda, in the summer or even in January, as well as Victor Gyökeres. Sporting fans are going to hate us. Absolutely hate us. I mean, I'm sure they already do. There's a part of him that's secret. It's like, bastards, took our coach. You want to take our best striker and our young prospects as well. But look, I'm getting excited, man. I mean, this week in general for myself is going to be mad busy. We've got the Super 6 Winner Takes All influencer event at 5s on Friday, which we've got like Angry Gin, Stretford Paddock, loads and loads of like big teams in Northwest and London, SC Dons, BT squad. Coming down for an event in my local area, and I'll be hosting a full event. So really excited for that. They've got a lot of build-up in the next couple of days, which I'll be doing. So a couple of interviews, which obviously isn't related to Real Reds Talk, but it's kind of a little bit hand in hand. And then we've got, obviously, the Ipswich preview coming up, which we're going to do on Thursday, I think. I think we're going to do an interview with someone this week as well, if all goes to plan. And then, obviously, you've got the games back, football finally flowing, like I referenced before. We've got... England don't play until March, so we've got January, February, December. I'm going backwards in months, I don't know why. But we've got 3 or 4 months of just straight football, which is like, thank God, praise the Lord. And not only that, every game's going to be like a match of the day analysis, isn't it? It's going to be like, I do that anyway after every game. I always do the pros and cons. You guys know that by now. But what I'm saying is, I get to something fresh and something new that we can try to understand and go through together, and maybe a couple of surprises along the way as well. There'll be players playing in positions where you're like, that's interesting. Don't think that. Rashford is a striker. Will he flourish? That's a question to ask. Luke Shaw, left centre-back role. We've seen him there before. We know he can do a job. Even in the back 4, he did a job against Erling Haaland, I remember, in the derby. So a lot of moving parts at the minute, a lot of things to work with. It hasn't been at the start of the season, but it's starting to get a little bit excited now. There's not a big gap in the Premier League. If you turn your fortunes around in Europe, you could go right back up there. So I'm just hoping Amorim gets the job done. Random guy straight in with a super chat. What a guy. Saying, wow, almost at 8K. Hope everyone has a nice day. Thank you very much, Random. I appreciate you, brother, and hope you're okay. And again, congrats on the course that we completed, right? I think it was. Everyone's smashing it in live, so it's very, very nice to see. Sporting fan, yes, you guys have Antony, Diallo, the young Mantanto, don't need Quenda. And I don't think you've watched Antony very much, Ricardo, if you think we're banking on him. Quenda has an 80 million clause. Jesus Christ. But can't we, if we was to go in January, would that, it's only active in the summer, that, right? I think, potentially. I'm sure I read that somewhere. But yeah, big up to the community. Everyone's inside. Sorry, it's a quick show today, but like I said, I've got that event coming up on Friday, so busy. I've got to go do a meeting and then a load of other stuff. So I'm going to leave it at that. I just thought I'd do a quick. I didn't want to leave you guys without a news show. So yeah, appreciate you guys joining. Leave a like on the video for us if you can, just before you head off, and subscribe to the channel. We're on 7,962 subscribers. We're getting close to 10K. When we hit 10K, there's going to be a giveaway, and we're going to start some merch. So let's hit that target together and celebrate.